Hey everybody. Want to welcome you guys back to our third part of our installment here with presenting to you guys with Elite and Jasper. Again, you're joined by myself, Matt Lofton, with Elite Worldwide, and the illustrious Joe Marconi. Today we're going to be doing again our third part installment here, talking about how do we create competitive pay plans that attract top talent. And so we're going to kind of split this into part one and part two over between this week and next week. We spent a lot of time talking about, what it takes to attract top talent. We wanted to put some emphasis on how to actually develop and come up with the pay plans themselves. So today we're going to talk about what makes a competitive pay plan, how do we create one, and we're going to show you guys some examples, and we're going to actually get into the weeds of it. And then we're going to get even deeper into it in next week's installment as well.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, and welcome everybody again. Thank you, Jasper. I mean, it's amazing. I said it last week and the week before how dedicated and committed Jasper is to the development and success of independence. So it's great to do this and great to be here with you too, Matt. It's a very, very important series. Like you said, part three of a four-part series. And today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what it takes to develop these pay plans that attract these superstars. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. And so just a really quick recap. Again, we're with Elite Worldwide. We do one-on-one coaching, management training, service advisor training, mastermind groups. If you guys need anything, please reach out and let us know. Again, this is our part three of our four-part series here. Again, today we're going to be talking about creating competitive pay plans. How do we do that? And how does that help us attract top talent? Next week, we're going to be covering that. And how do those plans align with our retention goals? So how do we attract and then how do we retain? Based off these pay plans. So we're going to jump into it today. So again, why do great pay plans matter when we're talking about attracting talent? Great pay plans matter because it communicates, pay plans communicate value. They improve your ability to attract top talent, helps control labor costs and increase profitability, and it helps your recruiting efforts. It separates your company from your competition. So I mean, I think the biggest thing that we need to keep in mind here is A, if we're talking about attracting, we need to be able to separate ourselves and differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And then we need to be able to create a pay plan that makes sure that, again, that we can stay profitable and or increase our profitability. And if we don't have those pay plans ahead of time, I know last installment we talked about we needed to have job descriptions and pay plans and offer letters and all these things put together in our hiring and recruiting packets. Today, we really want to go into, how do we create that pay plan? How do we make sure that, that we're staying within budget on them, but we're also making sure that we're not just competitive, but we're setting the market, setting the benchmark for our area and our market.
Matt, this is a lot like marketing because how do you position your company in a way that attracts the best of the best? In marketing, you want to attract good people, good customers to your place of business. It's the same here. It's the same strategies. What can we do that positions our company in a way that we looked upon as better than the competition and some at a place that really the superstars want to gravitate to and work for. So it's a very, very important concept. And this is where it starts. This is the foundation.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Joe. And if we think about our pay plans like we think about our product pricing, right? Because it's very similar. While price is not the only thing that matters, just like the employee pay is not the only thing that matters to them. It does matter, and it is a big factor in whether your
Yeah.
customer is going to buy your
Yeah.
product or not. So we have to be market competitive when it comes to our pay plans. At the same time, just like we need to be strategically priced to be profitable, we need to have our pay plans created, structured strategically so that we can be profitable on our internal expenses as well.
Absolutely. It is a balance. It is a financial and human resource balance that we have to that constantly monitor and adjust as needed.
Yeah. And so common pay plan problems that we see when we're helping other clients and through the years is, we've made mistakes both personally and mistakes that we've been able to help other clients through. The pay plans are overcomplicated. Like a lot of times we'll see people, they'll have these really big ideas about a performance-based pay, especially if you bring in somebody that's worked at a franchise store or a dealership and you ask them what their pay plan is and you take a look at it, it's just overcomplicated. It promotes a quota over quality. So if we think about, you reward the behavior that you want to see, and if we have a quota-based pay plan, we could be rewarding behavior that we are unintentionally uh, promoting inside of that pay plan. So we got to be careful there. The raises are based on tenure instead of career path. So there's no scalable plan in there, and it means that you could be giving somebody a raise with the same base level of performance that they're providing to you now. So we got to be careful about making sure that we just don't have tenure-based raises, fiscally based with little to no added benefits. So in other words, everything is weighted on how much the employee is getting paid and how much we're paying them, and we're not adding anything to the benefits, so there's no differentiator there. And then encourages unhealthy competition between employees. So we've all seen this, at the front counter where we have an individual pay structure there, and we have service advisors, fighting over the customer and whose customer is it, and same thing with the technicians in the back. I recommended that, it's mine. So we got to be careful about not creating that environment with the pay plans that we put together. There's no formal pay offer. So often, one of the problems that we see is we go into these things and we've just negotiated the pay at the point of interview. So we're going into the interview without a pay plan, and we're sitting down across from the guy. We ask him how much does he make now, and then we start trying to negotiate what that pay plan is going to be. And you can get yourself in a lot of trouble in that scenario where you're way out of budget, on an employee where it looks like it's okay on the front end, and then you're 6, 8, 9, 10 weeks into that individual working for you, and you start realizing, man, I made a big mistake with this pay plan, and I'm way out of budget here, and we're gonna show you how we can eliminate that here in the future, and then. This is a big one too. You guys make sure that your pay plans are compliant with federal and state and local wage laws. We're going to show you guys some sample pay plans today. Please keep this in mind that the pay plans that we show you today are just examples about how you could create a pay plan. We're not telling you this is what your pay plan should be, because your state and local wage and hour laws could be completely different. And we're just trying to give you the idea about how to work through the exercise of creating a pay plan that is within budget and fits all the criteria that we're going to go over today.
Yeah. Man, I just want to go back to one bullet point, the one where it says encourages unhealthy competition between employees. That's a big problem because there's an expression that we use a lot at Elite, put people in a position to win. Always put people in that position that they can win. And sometimes when you have difference of skill levels or experience. Let's take technicians, for example. You could have one technician with 5 years experience, another one with 15 years experience. Well, they could have vastly different levels of skills. One may be faster than the other. So we don't want to put these two technicians, let's assume they both have the same dedication. They're hard workers. They're dedicated to their craft. But let's put in position that they work as a team, number one, but yet can hit the goals that they are capable of hitting and move them up the ladder individually, knowing what their ability is, and then help them to become better and better. If you could put somebody in a position to win more often, that builds confidence. That's a great motivator also. So when you have those two technicians or two service advisors, like you said, you really want to make it a team effort. But like you said, you don't want people saying, "I'm grabbing that customer. That's my customer." You want it to be more of an equal playing field, but yet play to the talents and strengths of the individual. When you do that, and you build systems, pay systems that kind of reward their individual effort and the team effort, then you stand more of a chance of them winning both as an individual and as a team too. So keep that in mind. We're going to show you some different methods and strategies to accomplish this, but that's a very, very important bullet point I just want to bring up.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I would agree with you. That's probably the most important one on here. And And it's one that we see, we see quite a bit, and I think we've all probably made that mistake. There's some easy pay plans out there, but but they tend to lead us into common pitfalls,
Yeah,
like having some of that unhealthy competition there between some of the
yeah.
employees. So just some things to be thinking about, and be careful if there's one of these things that resonates with you on this bullet point list. Let us know in the chat. We'd be happy to talk about it in more detail when we get to the pay plan construction and how we can avoid that. So the strategy to attract the superstars, again, we're looking at pay plans today as a way to attract, so the front end of things. So when we're in the recruiting phase of things, how do we build a pay plan that's going to attract people to want to come and work for us? So first off, again, like we talked about last week, we have to understand the pain point of the candidate themselves. So what are the typical pain points for the position that we're hiring for? How do we address that inside of the pay plan? Convey the why your company is different. So again, we need to be focusing on what are the differentiating factors between us and our competitors. On a pay plan side of things, are we leaning towards, are we different because we offer a high base wage and we give a guarantee pay? Are we giving an unlimited earning potential? Are we offering overtime? Are we offering flexible schedules? Are we offering a work-life balance? Think about how your pay plan is constructed and what makes yours different than what is typically in your market area. You need to understand what your base pay earnings must be above market wage. And so again, if you want to set yourself apart, you need to have those base pay earnings. You need to try to set the market in your area for what that is as best as possible to attain. You may not always be able to do this. Not everybody's in the same position. You also need to compare yourself not just for the market, but for your business model, what your competing business models are inside of your market, right? So there's different business models inside of each market, and you may not be able to compete with all business models, but you may be able to compete with the other competitors that you have that share a business model with you. So just something else to think about there. So pay plans should include performance-based incentives. Again, we want to we want to make sure that there's not a ceiling to what somebody can earn. We want to incentivize them to continue to push their performance forward. We need pay plans that must provide a future growth opportunity. So we got to have that progression pathway and show them what their starting pay is and then what their total earning potential is as they grow with the company. Your pay plans must offer benefits that your competition does not. So again, if you want to stand out, we got to take a look at those benefits, whether that's 401k, health insurance, dental, what your time off packages are, um, spouse benefits, whatever you have that's there. Make sure that we're highlighting those so there's some differentiator. And then your pay package must make it an unbeatable, compelling offer. So I mean, again, just like we talk about presenting your product and your service to your customer and trying to make a compelling offer to the customer, we have to think about this as our internal customer and we're recruiting this internal customer. We got to make a compelling offer to that individual as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt, let me just go back to the a few of these bullet points real quick. If you go back, let's go back even to last week and the week before. The theme of those 2 weeks was essentially to attract the superstars. That's why it says here the strategy to attract the superstars. That's an important concept to understand because everything we set up here is for the future. Actually, it more than just today. Because if you want to scale your business and grow your business, you're going to need great people around you. And again, that was the theme of last week, the week before. So when we say that the base earnings must be above market wage, if possible, and also that what you offer should be something that your competition does not. We're trying to position ourselves again to attract the best of the best. I know we mentioned last week or the week before that these superstars, when they're disgruntled, not happy where they're working now, they're going to start creating a short list. They're going to start finding out where are the places in my local area, in my community that I can possibly work for in the future. Well, you want to be one of those places. So, to have a business that attracts the best of the best will put you in a position for further success, future success. So this does take a little bit of financial horsepower. I realize that, but in the long run, it pays for itself. This is not a don't look at this as an expense to your business. Look at it as an investment. All right. Now you will need to sit down and crunch those numbers to see exactly how you can afford it. We're going to show you some budgets a little in just a little bit. But the theme here is to if you're going to attract the best of the best, those superstars, then you got to put something out there that's compelling to them that says, wow, let me take a look. At least let me take a look at that. If you are the same as everybody else, you're going to be lumped into the there's not going to be anything that differentiates your business from another business. So, and by the way, this a lot of this comes from a book that I read called Good Job Strategy, and it highlights companies like Costco, Trader Joe's, Progressive Insurance, and a few others I can't remember. But in that those companies, the book highlights some of the strategies that these companies employ. They do go after the best superstars. They do, but once they have them, they know they just can't pay them the same wage as the competitors pay. They have to pay a little bit above market. And depending upon what that market is, like Matt said, you have to do that homework to find out. But if you the main point here is if you want to attract the best of the best, you got to put something in place, a strategy, a pay strategy that says, let me take notice. This looks pretty good.
Yeah, and you're spot on, Joe. And I think just to simplify what you said right there, and good people always make you money. And if we can attract
There you
better
go.
talent, it always makes the business better. A rising tide lifts all ships there.
There you go. Excellent. Excellent.
So pay plan guides, kind of what do you guys need to be thinking about as we're building these pay plans? The pay plan must promote the culture of the company. It must be transparent, easy to understand. Again, we don't want these really difficult, complex pay plans that the employee has no idea whether they're doing a good job or a bad job to get their bonus. We want to reward the right behavior. Um, and there's something called the Cobra effect. I'll take a moment here and explain that story. In India years ago, they had a cobra infestation in their population in some of their larger cities. And so the government inside of India decided to incentivize their citizens to kill cobras. And if they presented a dead cobra, they would pay the citizen X amount of dollars for bringing in that dead snake. Well, that worked very well for a time period. And then what happened is they started realizing that they could game it and they started breeding cobras. So instead of diminishing the population, there was a huge population explosion because the citizens actually started breeding cobras so they could kill them so they could turn them in for their reward. So we were trying to reward behavior by we're trying to reward behavior to diminish the cobra population, and we actually had the opposite effect. And there's a lot of things that we can do inside of our pay plans that create that effect with our employees, and we just have to think about what could happen over time with those as well. So keep in mind that cobra effect very important, and make sure that we're not rewarding the wrong type of behavior. We need to align individual goals with company goals. So again, as the individual gets paid more, the company needs to be able to get paid more, and vice versa. As the company gets better, we need to make sure that it's within the individual's best interest for that to happen as well. And we need to link pay plans to certain KPIs, and we need to establish minimum levels of acceptable performance. You're going to hear us refer to these from now on as MLAPs or MLAPs. If you guys do not have MLAPs in place, again, when you're creating these job descriptions, really think about what these minimum levels of acceptable performance are. It's not only going to help you hold the employee accountable, but it's also going to help you designing your pay plans for your production pay.
Yeah. One point I want to just reinforce align individual goals with company goals. We brought that up last week or the week before. I can't remember exactly what week, but this is a very, very powerful strategy. If you can understand the individual, what their objectives are, why they get up in the morning, why they come to work, what motivates them intrinsically from inside, then you have a very powerful strategy when you combine those goals with the goals of the company. When an employee knows that they can receive, they can gain what they need out of life from this job, from the job that you provide them with, and that by hitting the company goals, that's one powerful strategy. So just keep that in mind, that bullet point. Very, very powerful strategy.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Joe. I appreciate that. All right, so we talked about linking, talked about KPIs and creating MLAPs. So we want to talk about linking some of those minimum levels of acceptable performance to KPIs. So just to give you a quick rundown of what that could look like from a technician standpoint, maybe we create an MLAP for productivity and efficiency, comebacks or rechecks. We believe vocabulary matters. The psychology of recheck from a technician standpoint sounds better. So anytime you see recheck coming from us, we're talking about comebacks. But we want to take a look at their quality of work, customer satisfaction. We could create an MLAP based off their billed hours. For a service advisor, gross profit, sales, ARO, closing rate, car count, customer satisfaction. For the manager, total sales, discovered services, total gross profit, net profit, payroll percentage. All of these are examples that you could um, tie a minimum level of acceptable performance to a key performance indicator.
Excellent.
And so here's some examples really quick. We were building out a job description for a service advisor, and we wanted to set some MLAPs inside of that. We could say that the MLAP for the customer service score is 96%, meaning that if we get below that 96%, we are below our standard. We would have a minimum sales of 17,500, 55% GP, 65% labor, 45% parts, and then a minimum gross profit dollars of 9,625. And then you can see over here to the right-hand side, we see that this is our goals for that position. And kind of what you see here, if we take this is the goalpost, right, Joe? Like this is our
Yeah.
guardrails of where we want
Yeah.
the service advisor to live between. So no less than this and trying to get to this number. And that really helps them understand we want to create a job description and a pay plan that clearly defines whether the employee is meeting or exceeding expectations or whether they're falling behind the expectations. So we shouldn't wait until we're doing an employee review for the employee to know that they're not meeting your expectations. They should know it based off the job description, based off what their MLAPs are, and then based off of how well they're doing inside of their pay plan.
Just let me just touch upon there's 1 second. We have a question here, but let me just get my statement out, then I'll answer. I'll address the question. The MLAPs are very important because it does require sitting down, understanding your financials, going through your break even, going through what your gross profit requirement is per week, per month, per quarter. It does take a little bit of due diligence. But if you look at this, once you've done the math and you look at those MLAPs, you know that your business has to survive on those set of numbers, that goalpost, right? Like you said. Now, the goal is you want to stretch it a little bit. You want to make above what your minimum levels are. And as you stretch that for your employees, you're going to bring in more, first of all, more opportunity for incentive for your employees, but also adds financially to the bottom line of the company. So MLAPs to goal is a very, very important concept to understand. But again, it does require, like I know Matt and I, we sit down with clients all the time and we go through this exercise of understanding what is your break even? What is your requirement on a weekly basis, on a daily basis? How many jobs you need to do? What does your car count look like? How many cars do you actually need? Are you doing too little, too much? There's a lot that goes into this, but this concept is critical when you're talking about a pay plan. There's a question here from Mark. Are these goals per week or per day? All right. So this happens to be a week, but you can make it for a day, Mark. You can do it for a month. You can have MLAPs for quarter. But this happens to be for a week. But again, this is just an example. This is not what we're telling you that you need to hit. All right. This is just an example to show you what the comparison looks like, compared minimum levels of acceptable performance to what the goal, what you want to stretch it to.
Yeah, and I mean, and so I mean, I guess the easy answer for this is depending on the company. This could be a daily goal, it could be a weekly goal, it could be a monthly goal.
You're
Um,
right. Yep.
and so,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You
but
know,
you're
you're
right,
right.
Joe.
That's
This is
true.
this is
That's
just an
true.
example, and all these samples that we're showing you here, guys. This is really just a way for you guys to see what the exercise is going to look like. But to Joe's point, you're going to have to come up with what these standards are for your company, and what your goal is. So you need to figure out what's the minimum, dollar amount in sales that you could still be able to get past your break even and have some level of profitability that's acceptable to you. And then what is your stretch goal? Where are you trying to get to for profitability? And what do these individual numbers need to be able to get there? And
Right.
that's how you would come up with these MLAPs. And then we have another one here for a technician, for an MLAP 70% production, efficiency of 80%, 35 build hours, less than 2% comebacks, and then proper 90% completion of DBIs or MPIs, and then 25 hours of annual training. And then we have our goals over here to the right of 100% productivity, efficiency of 120%, billable hours of 45, less than 0.5% rechecks, and then DVI, 100% completion of DVIs with 45 hours of annual training. Those would be the goals. Again, these are just examples of what that would look like just for a different position.
Yeah.
And so presenting your pay plan to potential candidates, you need to ensure that you have pay plans for each position. Give a pay range when you're going through the screening process. So I know a lot of times candidates are going to want to know, or when you're putting out there in the job ad, you're going to post a pay range. Don't give a specific number if you can on the front end, because you need to assess what their skill level is. So they might be applying for an A Tech position, but after you interview with them, they might be a B Tech, right? After going through some of those questions. So don't lock yourself into a pay range there. I mean, a specific pay, give a range during the screening process, and then make sure it's compelling for the offer that it is. So our technicians make between this and this, is kind of what that would sound like. Confirm the pay range works for them. So again, you don't want to be interviewing somebody that's expecting $200,000 a year and your pay range is 75 to 125. That's not going to be a compelling offer for them. You're going to waste your time and their time. Reveal the pay plan's full details when you're ready to hire. So when you feel like you have somebody that's ready to bring onto the team, then we need to go into detail about what that pay plan is, and we can share that information with them at that point in time, and specifically which side of that pay, which section of that range they're going to fall into. And then again, your pay package must make unbeatable, compelling offer. And remember to create your entire pay package, not just the pay plan itself, but the entire plan, what the entire take-home value of that is.
Yeah. And you remember, just to build those pay plans for each position, be prepared. Don't go in blind. Be prepared. A lot of times we say, well, let's meet with this person, whatever, and you're not totally prepared, that tends to fall apart. Then you tend to make decisions that down the road kind of regret you made. So you need to do the homework. Nothing, this is not a given. You need to sit down, do the homework. If you need help, get help. We can help you. So, but you need to be prepared. The more prepared you are, the better the foundation, the more likely you're going to make a right decision.
Yeah, 100% right, Joe. So pay package benefits to consider. So we talked about how do we add benefits to this to make our compelling offer even better. These are just things to consider. Not saying that you have to do all of these, and not saying that there's not things that could be added to this list. We just want to spark some creativity here for you. So incentive for quality work. So if you what could we add in production pay or bonus pay that incentivizes them to do quality work over just quantity of work? Paid training, ASE certification bonuses, tool allowances, and insurance. The insurance is something that's a big deal if you and it's fairly cheap to look into for your team that not a lot of shops offer. Uniforms, again, shoe and boot allowances, stipends for clothes if you don't have uniforms. Health, vision, dental insurance, sick time and vacation time, retirement plans, life insurance, Um, disability insurance. If you have a work culture that's built off a work-life balance and that's a differentiator for you, make sure that you highlight that. Gym memberships. What do you do for them? Things that you're doing for them outside of work. Things like celebrating birthdays, work anniversaries, team events, mentorship programs. And then, like I said, just thinking about, what do you do for spouses? Things holidays like Christmas, um, holidays uh,
Thanksgiving, like, yeah.
Valentine's Day, all those types of
Oh, yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
They're not just their work anniversaries, but their personal anniversaries as well. Again, we at Elite, we like to say when you hire Larry, you get Mary. What are we doing to take care of the family at home, make their life better at home, not just better at work as well?
Yeah. Again, it's all about positioning. You want to you want those superstars to view your company as an attractive place to work, as something that they're at least going to take a look at. And when you because most of your competitors are going to be they're going to be trying to position themselves on the hourly pay or the salary or the flat rate pay, whatever it is. And we want to be better than that. We want to make something different. Again, I go back to marketing. In marketing, when you could make your business stand out different, people will take notice. And that's the whole thing we're trying to do. And like Matt said earlier, this is just a basic list of considerations. You think out of the box. There could be things you're doing now that you don't even realize that are differentiators, that are something that's special about your business, that's so special that you need to put that out right out there in front of everyone when you're looking to hire the best of the best.
Yeah, absolutely right, Joe. So again, we want to make a compelling offer. Um, so we want to calculate the total economic value of the plan. So what does that look like? So we talked about making sure that you package everything together, show the total potential of what their take-home value is going to be. So we have an example here for a $65,000 annual employee. And again, we're not telling you any of these pay numbers that we put in here. They're just to make the example and go through the exercise together. So we have $65,000 or 1250 a week would be the pay range. They have $100 in bonus potential for a sales bonus. They have $300 in gross profit incentive, and then they would have CSI score incentive of $100, giving a total weekly potential of $1,750 or $91,000 a year if they hit bonus every week, obviously. Annual benefits that they would get is they would get $3,000 of PTO or sick time and vacation. They get paid holidays, six of them a year at $1,500. Retirement contributions, health and insurance, uniforms. And you can see that we total package all of these benefits values together at $25,500. So now we can tell them that their total annual economic potential is $116,500. So when they're comparing plans, if they're just looking at, well, my base salary is 1250 a week, and somebody else has a $1,300 base salary, the $1,300 might seem better, but when we look at the benefits value and we see that, hey, I'm getting $25,500 of benefits from this company versus nothing stated for benefits in this other one, that can be a huge differentiator, and it's something that a lot of times we forget that we're paying for, and we forget to highlight it, and they leave it out of their decision making factor as well. But it can make a big difference in what their actual take home value is as an employee.
It's a great point. It's a great point. And that's exactly what I said earlier. This is how you position yourself to just look different and look better in the eyes of someone looking at your company. To explain this to them, to have these rough numbers available, and when you do go through the screening process and the hiring process, this could be and will be the differentiator. At least it gives you a better opportunity to onboard the superstars.
So again, sample technician, you can see the same thing here. We have 1250, so annual salary 65,000. We got a productivity bonus. So his total weekly potential with bonuses added in brings him to 1,700 a week or 88,000 a year. And then you can see that we've added in some of his other benefits as well, the tool allowance, retirement contributions, healthcare, uniforms, training value. And you can see that his annual benefits value is about 33,500, bringing his total annual economic value up to $121,900. So again, a big difference between just looking at the earning potential of what their actual pay is versus all of the other things that you're going to be doing for them. Big differentiator there when you take a look at those two. Other thing just to keep in mind here, guys, is there is no one size fits all perfect pay plan. If there was, there wouldn't be all the different variations that we have in the industry. If you talk to 20 different shop owners, you're going to get 15 different pay plans from those shop owners. There is no one size perfect plan that fits everybody. So just take every plan that you see and the ones that we're going to present to you today as inspiration and try to understand the intent behind the plans and how to take it and make the plan fit what you're looking to reward and the culture that you're trying to build inside of your company and how you can make it a compelling offer for your team and your market. So common pay plans, we're just going to run through this really, really quick. For service advisors, it could be based off of an hourly pay, an hourly plus or some sort of a performance bonus, a salary. Please make sure that if you are paying somebody a salary, that it's meeting the criteria to fit for a salaried employee. We see that a lot in our industry of paying somebody a base salary, but we're not actually compliant with the local laws to for a salary employee. Salary plus performance bonus, and then a commission only. And again, here, just a disclaimer, some commission only plans may not be legal in every state. Not saying there's anything wrong with them, just may not be legal. So additional incentive bonuses, we could have a team production bonus, customer reviews, milestone bonuses, specific services or products sold. So just different ways that we can incentivize those team members. From the technician side of things, there's true flat rate pay plans, meaning that we're only paying the technician for the production hours that he earned for the week. That is not legal in all states. So if you are planning on using that pay plan, please take a look at your state laws and make sure that you're legal there. A hybrid pay plan there, which would be an hourly plus some sort of a production bonus or a guaranteed, like a flat rate pay, but we're going to guarantee a certain number of hours per week, would be another flat rate hybrid there as well. We could pay just by the hour. We could pay salary again, salary plus performance bonus, but again, make sure you're meeting your labor criteria for that. Additional incentive bonuses, we could incentivize off of work quality, team production, customer reviews, milestone bonuses. All pay plans must comply with federal and state and local wages. Make sure you guys are checking into those things. Here's where we're going to get into. So we've talked about examples of what the pay plan should look like, the things that you should have in there, why you should have all these attractive offers. Now, the real question is, how the hell do we know what a good offer is for these positions and still be affordable for us as the business? And so those of you that partook in our earlier Jasper series that we did earlier this year, we spent a lot of time talking about the financials and how to use the P&L to budget different sections of the business. And so we're gonna go back on that and we're gonna re-highlight some of those things. So for service advisor pay, we're looking at the cost of our service advisors to be somewhere around 8% of revenue. All right, that doesn't mean that it can't be a little bit more. It doesn't mean that it can't be a little bit less, but that 8% number is a pretty daggum good target. And we're going to talk about how to use that to be able to set our pay plans here in just a second. With our technicians, we're looking for around 17% of revenue for all other support staff, whether that be administration, support technicians, porters, all of those different roles. We're looking for those to total about 5% of revenue. So total payroll, we want to not exceed 30% to 35%. So it should be somewhere in that range of 30 to 35% of revenue with payroll taxes included. So we don't want it to exceed 30%. If we're adding payroll taxes in there, we don't want it to exceed 35%. Those of you that are still active in the business as an owner, so whether you're producing hours as a technician or you're working the front counter, my kind of rule of thumb here says if the overall production of the business would drop off more than 10%, if you are not there, you need to take your pay and consider it into these calculations. So if you're a service advisor working the front counter, whatever you pay yourself needs to roll into this 8%. If you're a technician, it needs to roll into this 17% as well. You need to calculate yourself in that number.
Good point. Very good point, Matt.
All right, so how do we budget for this? How do we take those numbers that we just looked at? How do we build a pay plan so we're not just picking a number, or we're not just paying people what we think other people are paying them, or more than what we paid the last guy, or negotiating pay when we sit in the interim? So if we were going to start one today, how would we create one from scratch, knowing that we were going to be within budget and still offer a fair wage to that individual? So we're going to do one again for a sample for a service advisor. Again, we are not telling you that this is what your pay plan should be. We're just going to give you an example of what the budget would look like for a $1 million revenue shop. So if we take a shop that's got $1 million of annual revenue and we apply our 8% calculation there to what we have to budget for a service advisor. So we know that we don't want our service advisor expense to be more than 8% of total revenue. So that leaves us with $80,000 that we can budget to pay a service advisor. So we can break this down into approximately 70% base pay, 20% performance-based pay, and then 10% of other. And the other could be anything like CSI score bonuses, spiffs for certain jobs that you're looking to sell, quality bonuses, whatever you're looking at there. So if we did that, we would have an annual base pay out of a 40-hour work week of somewhere around $50,000. We would have $25,000 allocated for a performance-based pay based on a weekly minimum level of acceptable performance of $10,500 of GP or 55% of gross profit. And what we did was we took our $1 million and broke it down to our weekly number. And if we applied our weekly sales number to achieve $1 million and put 55% there, that gives us roughly $10,500 of gross profit dollars that we would need to get to be able to maintain that 55% GP. And then and then we have a goal of $11,500 of gross profit per week. And again, what we would do here is, and Joe alluded to this earlier, we would take our break even and we would figure out how much gross profit we would need to be able to hit our net profit goals. And that's how we would attain these GP numbers. And then anything above the $10,501, then we would have our production bonus or performance-based bonus here of 4% of the entire GP dollars. So we have a minimum level of acceptable performance. It says anything below this, we did not meet the terms to get a bonus. But as soon as we cross that threshold of $10,501, then we would bonus the entire GP amount of 4%. And then we have $5,000 allocated to other KPI bonuses like 5-star Google reviews. Again, if you wanted to spiff on certain services or jobs, anything along those lines, training bonuses, other KPIs that you wanted to target, maybe like car count or anything like that. Joe, anything you want to add to this before we go into
Well,
this?
yeah, this is yeah. The next slide's going to give a more detailed breakdown, but I just want to say a couple of things here. This is a sample only, but it's a pretty good roadmap to based on the numbers of this particular business model. In other words, it's $1 million revenue shop. So, like Matt said, what can we really afford doing $1 million in revenue? You have to have some baseline. So this gives you a roadmap to build something that's affordable, but it also allows both the business and the service advisors to earn even more. Because let's say that the weeks, well, let me just back up a second. You've already done the math, like I said earlier. So the MLAPS is 10,500. That means that you've done the math. In order to satisfy everything, the gross profit to pay all the bills, everything, you've done that math. That's what required each week. The goal is to hit 11,500. But the beauty of this, it gives you that spread number one to shoot for, but it also says to both the company and the employee, if you do better, you're going to earn more, so that you're not capping or put a ceiling on this person's pay. Because if that company does the service advisor does 12,000 in gross profit dollars, 12,400 in gross profit dollars. They're getting the 4% of the entire gross profit dollars. But what this does is it doesn't overpay because it's based on numbers that have both the minimum level with goals. And if you hit over those goals, you're actually benefiting both the employee and the company. So this is a good roadmap. Again, it takes due diligence, sitting down, working through your numbers, understanding the budget. But if you happen to do $1.1 million, both you under this plan, both you and the advisor are going to benefit greatly, and you'll never get hurt. That's the problem with some pay plans. It's based on sales only and not gross profit. When you base it on sales only and you don't account for the gross profit, then you may be hurting yourself. So again, you have to understand revenue, gross profit, your expenses, and what that means in the bottom line. So it does take some doing the math and crunching some numbers, but this is based on gross profit, which I really, really love, not just on sales.
Yeah, and you're 100% right, Joe. And this $80,000 is not capped, right? So I mean,
No,
if like you said,
no,
if they outperform what the expectation is and they do $1.2 million in sales and we wind up averaging $20,000 a week in GP, then their pay is going to go up and their earning potential is going to be way over this 80,000. So but kind of what we have here is what we like to try to focus on when you're building a pay plan. We like to see about 70% of it in base pay, about 20% of it in a performance bonus, and then 10% of it in other opportunistic income. And this 10% is something that you can try to change on on a routine basis, maybe monthly, quarterly, to make sure that we're not getting trapped into that Cobra effect like we're talking about, where they don't figure out a way to, gamify it on you. But we like to think of this as the gamification, opportunistic income here, behavior that you're looking to change, things that you're looking to highlight, seasonal things that matter in the business. Think about that 10% is something that can change there. But this is a really good structure. It's a good pay plan. It's not the only way to do it, but
no,
it gives you an
no.
example of how that would work. And so let's just do the math really quick. We said 8% of 1 million is 80,000. This is for one advisor. If we broke this down into 70, 20, 10, like we just described, we would do an hourly base wage of $24.50 per hour at 40 hours per week. This is going to give them a base pay of $980 a week of pay, or $50,960 a year. We had the 4% commission of a average of $11,500 of weekly gross profit. This gives them an average weekly bonus of $460, or an annual take home of 23,920 to add to their base pay. And we do our 5-star Google review, 10% deal here of $100. That's $5,200 a year. So when we stack all this together, that is a average weekly pay of $1,540, or annualized at $80,080 total. So again, we can back into this math super simple. And again, they still have the opportunity to outperform this by outperforming the sales number.
Yeah,
But
and
that
that's
just
the
kind of,
beauty of it.
yeah.
That's the beauty of it, Matt. Sometimes as we work with clients all the time, and they tell us, I think I'm overpaying my advisor, overpaying my technician. And that's a problem. And sometimes they are. This is a plan that, because it's based on gross profit and not sales alone, especially for the service advisors, you're never going to pay. You're never going to overpay a service advisor. What this will do is it'll stretch them, incentivize them, let them know that if they perform better, both them, the service advisor, and the company, you both win. You both win. It's a good plan. Plus, this is the basis of what their potential of their earnings. And then on the bottom there, you add in all those other perks. You know what I'm saying? All the other perks, the tool allowance or the flex time, whatever it is in your particular shop. So this makes it very, very attractive, this type of plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to take a look at, we've got our service advisor budgeted in there. We put a pay plan together for that. The next example we're going to take a look at to do $1 million in a general repair shop, typically that's going to take at least two technicians to be able to do that. So we're going to break this down. How do we take our 70-20-10 and apply this to a technician pay scale and what we would be able to pay them? So again, we said our budget for technicians is 17% of total revenue, which gives us $170,000 per year budget for two technicians. So we're going to do this as two technicians and a GS, just to make our math easier. Um, and so obviously, keep in mind here that our two technicians may have different skill levels, which means we may be allocating more of our $170,000 budget to one over the
Yeah.
other. But for this example, we're going to assume that our two technicians are equal skill level, and then we have our GS as well. So we're essentially building a pay plan for our technician, and then a separate one for our GS. So for our technicians, we have $64,200 that we can allocate to each technician for pay. We're not saying that this is a good number. This is just making the math easy here. All right. And then we have one GS that we can afford to pay $41,600 to, or $20 per hour with no bonus plan. So again, our total technician payroll, when we add this together, would be $170,000. Criteria for techs to achieve bonus. We would put an MLAP out there for 35 production hours per week with a goal of 40. And anything over MLAP, the technician would get $9 an hour for each production hour that they produced. But they have to cross that threshold of 35 first before they're accessible to that $9. So other KPI incentives would be at 10%, and we'll show that here in the plan breakdown.
Yeah. I just want to
Well,
emphasize one thing. Can you go back a second, Matt?
yeah.
Because it's an important point. Maybe I'm overkilling it, but it's an important point. On the bottom, the MLAP, 35 production hours. This is just an example. Well, let's assume that you've done the math. You're the shop owner, the manager. You sat down and done the math. You know that these two technicians, and let's assume again that they're same skill level, but you know that you need to meet your needs of the business, to be profitable, to earn, to pay all your expenses, and to put a little bit of money down to the bottom line, you need 35 production hours from each technician. So nothing happens until you break that point. The goal obviously is 40 plus hours a week in this situation, but that's giving you again a roadmap to success. Plus, again, the pay plan doesn't hurt you because if they don't produce those hours, there is no bonus incentive, but it tells the technician, look, this is what we need. We're going to work with you on this. But when you start producing over those, 35 hours of production per week, then we're going to start kicking in. Again, once that bonus kicks in, both you and the employee both benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's break this down a little bit more, just like we did the service advisor side of it. So we have two technicians. So let's do the math on this. We're going to approximately 70% of base pay, 20% performance based, and 10% other based on a 40-hour work week. If we have a budget for one technician of annual pay of $64,200, what does that look like? So that could be $21 per hour on the clock at 40 hours, gives us a base pay of $840 or $43,680 a year as our 70% base pay. Our performance bonus is going to kick in at 36 hours, billed at $9 per hour, and that puts us at $324 a week for our 20% performance-based pay, or $16,848 a year. And then we have our MLAP, or our KPI target bonus here for the 10%. For this one, we've chosen rechecks. So if they were under 0.5% of total rechecks, that would be $75 per week or $3,900 a year, bringing their total weekly pay to $1,239 for a total annual pay of $64,428. So again, this is how we would back into taking this 64,200 and breaking it up between the base pay, performance pay, and then our opportunistic income, all based off of a hourly base plus pay plan here. So this is just an example. Again, it's not the only way that you could do it, And again, this might be, we're assuming that both of our technicians are the same and we don't have an A tech and a B tech. And we're just breaking it down for for the base requirements of our budget. So again, not saying that 64,000 sets the market for your area. You might be paying way over that. Depending on the skill level of technician, you might pay less than this. But but this is how we would be able to take what is our budget? How many technicians is it going to take to be able
Yeah.
to get there? And then how do we break that down into, uh, being able to put something that has a base pay, some performance, and be able to stay in budget for those technician expenses.
Yeah. And again, this is just a roadmap, but it's a good roadmap to understand the financial needs of the business. And if you see there, because it's 30, that's based on 36 build hours. Again, you've done the math, or we've done the math. The shop owner sat down, did the math. And we know that if the technician starts to build 38 hours, 40 hours, whatever that number becomes, you're not capping the person at $64,000 a year. What you're actually doing is saying, as long as we meet this criteria, these M labs, and we go over, then everybody starts to benefit. So that technician can end up making 400 a week, 500 a week, depending upon the hours that are billed. And these, you look at this as a team and individual, it's a no-brainer in a sense that the business will never get hurt, but everyone benefits from this type of plan.
Yeah. And what it also allows you to do, Joe, is let's say that let's say that we overshoot our sales. So let's say that these technicians are super productive. They're averaging 55 hours a week. We wind up, instead of doing $1 million, we wind up doing 1.2 or 1.3. Now it allows us to go back and renegotiate and give them a pay raise on what their hourly base wage is, because
Yep.
at 1,200,000, when we multiply that times the 17%, now we have $204,000 available to pay these technicians,
There you go.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's not capping them. This is just hey, how do we stay within budget? How do we make sure that we don't overpay? Because we hear that a lot. I'm paying my technicians too much. How do we not get ourselves in that? And then how do we scale their pay? Again, how do we, as the business grows, how do they make more money? This is a great way for you to make sure that you're staying in budget, and then always keeping in mind that as the business does better, we have more available budget to be able to pay to those technicians as well. And then knowing that the next step of the business may need to add a technician. In other words, we may be capping out what their productivity is. How do we add that next technician and not go over our budget for what we have allowed to be able to pay techs for the year?
Excellent.
And so I know we went over a lot of math here. I want to leave a little bit of time because we're right here at the top of the hour. But I wanted to, if there are any questions in the chat, if there's any comments about it, we'd love for you guys to hop in and put your 2 cents in on it.
Well,
And
yeah, Darren made a good comment here. It said it's good during annual reviews to cover these additional benefits, talking about the, economic benefits. They can be forgotten, especially as economic issues happen and the money in the bank is standing out, he says. So, yeah, I mean, exactly, Darren. Great point there. When you sit down with your employees, it's a great time to just review the, the entire total economic package, what they're actually getting in dollars and cents in both earnings and all the perks. Great point, Darren. Great point.
any
That's
other questions there in the chat, Joe?
no, we are good. We are good.
Awesome. Like I said, guys, I know we covered a lot of stuff today. If you guys have any questions about what we covered, if you want to see some different examples of it, if you want some one-on-one time with me and Joe to, maybe take a look at what your current pay plans are or what your current budgets should be, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We'd be happy to try to help you out with this as best we can. We like to leave you guys with some actionable steps each week so that you can take the information that we've talked about today and put it in action. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I hope that you guys are showing up and watching and listening, and then taking a portion of what we're saying and putting it into play. But we'd like you to create your pay plans for each position, create your benefits package, and then create a pay range to discuss with each potential candidate. and then figure out what your, based off of these, figure out what your budgets are, kind of how we built these pay plans today.
Matt, there was one question too, I forgot to mention.
Okay, go ahead.
Someone asked about the video recordings of these sessions. We'll send the slides and some resources every week pertaining to the particular presentation for that week. And at the end of the series, everyone who signed up for this will receive the video recordings of the entire series. That won't be until after the last session next week.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. That was a great question too. All right, guys, just another quick reminder. Elite Worldwide, we have our big annual get together in Scottsdale, Arizona, coming up in January 30th through the 31st in 2026. We would love to see you there. Please go to our website if you would like to get more information about that and register. You'll see the information for Ignite under our events page. So please check that out. We also have our Fly with the Eagles 3-day shop owner and manager boot camp coming up. Again, go to our events page there. It'll be in Southern California in February. We would love to see you there. We do have a special offer going on for you guys at Jasper right now. Normally, this price for Fly with the Eagles is $17.95. We have an early bird price out there right now for attendees at $6.99. But for Jasper attendees that sign up for our early bird pricing, it goes all the way down to $3.99. So this is a no-brainer. Also, keep in mind that for you Jasper customers that are partake in the co-op, this is applicable for the co-op benefits there from Jasper. Take a second, hit the QR code here. It'll take you to the registration and get you set up for that Jasper price. Again, that'll be February 19th through the 21st in the Southern California, Los Angeles area. And then again, we do offer one-on-one coaching, advisor training, peer groups, anything that we can do to help you out. You guys that are looking for some advisor training, our next class is going to be available on December 4th through the 6th in Dallas, Texas. Again, go to our website and look at our events page there and see how we can help you out. And then again, as always, I told you guys, please reach out to us. If there's some information that we covered today, there's not enough time in the day to cover this in the amount of detail that it really deserves. So please reach out. Let us know if you have questions. If you'd like us to take a look at something to help you out, we'd be happy to help you out. No pressure. We're just here to help. Again, we're a people first company, people, principles, and results. And we really do believe that. So our email addresses are here on the screen. Please write them down, take a picture of them, and please feel free to reach out if there's any questions that you guys have after these meetings.
Yeah, please. I want to thank you, Matt, and thank everyone for being here today. And yeah, take us up on that offer. If you have any questions about today or you're struggling on some particular area, no pressure. We don't have any pressure. Salespeople are going to beat your door down. We really want to help. We really want to help. And I want to thank Jasper again, too, for putting this on for us and helping us to help you. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jasper. Thank you, everybody who attended.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you guys again for your time this week. We look forward to joining you again next week with Jasper and finishing this series out. It's been a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to putting a bow on it for you guys next week.
See you next week, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.